Good morning and welcome to St. George's Episcopal Church in New Orleans. I'm the Reverend Stephanie Fox, and I am delighted that you have joined us today. Please know at St. George, all are welcome, and I'd love to see you real soon. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, whose will it is to restore all things to your well-beloved Son, the King of kings and Lord of lords, mercifully grant that the peoples of the earth, divided and enslaved by sin, may be freed and brought together under his most gracious rule, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. When my son John was about 4 years old, he had a hard time sleeping. He would get all wound up and just couldn't settle down. And I asked him, "Hey, bud, what's going on in that thinker of yours? What's wrong?" And he said, "Mama, I want to be grown up right now. I need to be big." And I asked him, "Whatever for? Why do you need to be big?" And he said, "I need to be big right now because the world is in trouble and it needs saving. It needs a superhero, and if I was grown up and if I was big enough, I could be a superhero and save the world." The world is in trouble. It is suffering, and it needs a superhero to save it. It needs something, someone bigger and stronger and more powerful than me to save it. Indeed. And the little children will lead them. Life gets overwhelming sometimes. There is so much to do. There are so many demands, so many worries. Where will the money come from? How will I handle this problem? How will I mend this relationship? How can I help this troubled child of mine, this troubled friend or family member who is suffering and in pain? Or how will I overcome my anxiety and my depression? Maybe I'll just go back to bed because it's awful cold outside. Where do we find peace when we can't sleep at night? Where do we put all the troubles in our hearts and in our minds? How do we quiet the voices of worry and indecision and self-doubt? When I'm feeling anxious and overwhelmed, I stop and I take a few long, slow, deep breaths. I breathe in and out, and I feel the earth supporting my feet, and I imagine that I am breathing in God, the Holy Spirit, and breathing out whatever is troubling me. And in just a few minutes, my heart settles down and my spirit settles. My mind quits racing and peace is restored. I take the time when I breathe to remember that God is in control, and my job is just to breathe, to let go, and to do the next right thing, and to ask God, what would you like me to do right now? What would you like me to do next? Today, we celebrate the reign of Christ the King, the most unlikely king of all, born as a vulnerable baby in a humble manger to a faithful carpenter as his earthly father and a prophetic and strong mother. The boy grew into a man, learning the skills of carpentry and building and having great insights into Holy Scripture and God, with wisdom well beyond his years. He began his earthly ministry at 30 and chose unlikely followers, asking them to leave everything behind right then and to decide to be his disciple today right now, never tomorrow. There was an urgency to Jesus. He had only 3 years of active ministry. He went around to the surrounding areas of Galilee preaching and teaching and healing. He went about proclaiming a new heaven and a new earth and proclaiming that the kingdom of God had come near. He told Zacchaeus he was going to his house today. He didn't heal people tomorrow. He didn't tell them to go home and pray about it. No, he healed them on the spot. He offered them healing today. He offered them hope today. And when he was hanging on the cross, condemned to die for no reason other than fear, he continued bringing healing to the world and being the light of the world. He did not respond to the hardship, to the pain and humiliation of crucifixion with anger or bitterness. No. He said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He offered his executioners forgiveness today. And he offered paradise to a condemned criminal at his side, saying, "Today you will enter into paradise." Whatever you are going through today, Christ is with you. Today is the celebration of Christ the King, the celebration of the reign of Christ. That means that Christ is King today. Christ was the King in the beginning. When the world was formed, Christ is with us today in our suffering and troubles, and Christ will be with us always. There will never be a time when Christ says, "I'm too busy, can I get back to you?" There will never be a time when he doesn't forgive me. He may say, "Dang it, Stephanie, you knucklehead, why did you do that? Why did you say that?" But there will never be a time when Jesus condemns or rejects me or rejects you. No matter what you have said or done, whatever mistakes you have made, you are not condemned. You are a child of the Most High God. You are beloved. You are forgiven, loved, and free today because Christ still reigns today. Whether we believe it or not, Christ is King over heaven and earth today. Not a president elected and voted for, but a king who is the ultimate, unlimited, powerful one, more powerful than any superhero. A good king, a good shepherd who still reigns, who was and is to come. A good shepherd who will gather all the flock and lead them to peace. A God whose power and love and grace working in us can do more than we can infinitely ask or imagine. Our choice, our part of the glorious reign of Christ, is whether we want to sit on the sidelines or get into the game today. Do we want to grow up and grow into the stature of Christ? Do we allow ourselves to be transformed into more loving, compassionate, forgiving people today? Do we want to be disciples of Christ who offer change and healing and hope to the world today? Today, are you willing to sacrifice for others, for this place and for this church? Today, are we brave enough and bold enough to be superheroes in our own story, in our own homes and workplaces and in this community? Today, are we big enough and brave enough to reach out and be a blessing to others, to answer the call, to feed the hungry, to visit the sick and lonely, to be a balm of healing to others? Today, are we willing to be a light that shines so brightly in this community that all will see Christ alive and reigning in this place? Today, right now, I invite you to turn your eyes and your hearts to Jesus, to turn your worries and your minds and your heart over to a God that loves and forgives you. Today, I invite you to follow Christ the King, who asks you to step out in faith, who asks you to love and to forgive and to give out of your abundance. And I invite you to join me and Jesus today in bringing about the reign of Christ in this place and in this community, to witness the resurrection and new life that only Christ can give. Amen. May God grant you the grace not to sell yourself short, grace to risk something big for something good, grace to remember that the world is now too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love. So may God take your minds and think through them. May God take your lips and speak through them. And may God take your hearts and set them on fire in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And God bless you.